In this episode, we're diving into the recent rally in wheat prices. We'll explore what's driving this surge and bring in expert insights to debate whether these high prices are here to stay. Let's get to it. Hey folks, welcome to the What the Futures podcast, where we break down complex market trends into simple, actionable advice. It's your quick guide to better farming decisions. Hey there, folks. Welcome to What the Futures. This is episode number 27, I think, already. Of course, recorded each and every week in the UPL studio. Congratulations to Riley. He was our week one winner. 40 acres of Batalium heading his way. He's going to spray that on his wheat crop here in the next couple of weeks. Who's going to win this week? Well, I'm going to announce that later in this episode. Of course, we're giving away Batalium every week in May. And I guess we're about halfway. So there we go. All right. What the Futures podcast is your weekly dose of clarity in the complex world of agriculture. If you want to substitute agriculture for crop marketing, I'm okay with that as well. I'm Ryan Denis. I'm your host. You're going to say, why you, Ryan? Well, I've been involved in agriculture for my whole life. I was a crop marketing advisor, analyst. I led crop marketing teams in Canada and in the US. And had a lot of fun working with farmers across the prairie. So here I am, bringing the show on the road here with the What the Futures podcast. I've got a lot to cover off here today. Of course, we have David Lee with Marketplace Commodities joining me. We get into it today, folks. We go the distance. David has a lot to cover. And stay tuned. Even for the very end, he's got some tips about how to work with some grain buyers when it comes to payment here across the prairie. So stay tuned for that. Of course, we've got our Mailbag segment sponsored by Pioneer Seeds. We're going to wrap up the episode with a healthy serving of veggies because it's the right thing to do. And one of them, just a little sneak peek, is just about doing a little contract maintenance in this rally. You've sold a bunch of grain here lately. It's time to make sure that you have it all recorded. All right. Of course, our lovely show sponsor, John Deere. I'm just going to pause for a second here. John Deere supported us since day one, which we appreciate. But I was driving down the road this morning, actually. We're recording this on the 15th of May. And I was following a John Deere service truck. And I just started to think, and I was looking at our farm as well. And, you know, those service folks out there, they put in the hours at this time for everybody, but the John Deere service guys are fantastic. I know that's been our experience, and just thank you for all putting in those extra hours and coming to solve. They never come for the easy stuff, right? They're always coming to solve like some mystery, and so we appreciate your talents and your efforts. So shout out to the John Deere service folks out on the road there. Okay, let's get after it here in today's episode. I've got some housekeeping. I've been saving this stuff for the end. Wanted to move it forward in the episode because it's kind of the fun stuff in a way, right? But I do have a shameless, selfless plug to start. All right, RyanDenis.ca. That's the website. It is now live. Okay, as of recording here, it is live, and this is my plug to those that want more when it comes to crop marketing guidance. Okay, check it out, RyanDenis.ca. That's all I'm going to say for this week. There's a bunch of different options on there. There's ways for us to connect. Head over there, check it out when you have a chance. All right. Of course, our playoff hockey pool, I'm still winning the hockey pool. I don't know how. It's going to fall apart for me right away. Of course, after round 2, it's going to go bad. But I'm still leading the hockey pool, which I know is not in good taste with listeners of the podcast who are trying to win these great prizes from UPL, Pioneer Seeds, and What the Futures. But hey, we'll see where it ends up. I was still in the lead last time I checked here, which I think was last night. It was a late night, though. Of course, my Oilers pulled it out. It was stressful. It's been very stressful, but they pulled it off. Now, of course, we've got a playlist on YouTube Music, What the Futures, #Plant24. My songs of the week Dueling Banjos. It's Dueling Banjos. It every time it comes on, I have to hear it through. It's like a fight. The banjos fighting each other in the song, and I can't turn it away. I even have the kids into it now as well. And for the night shift crew, it's called "I'm Good." Okay, this is with David Guetta and Baby Rexa. Anyways, last May, I ended up spending a couple of weeks in Hawaii with the family. And in our rented minivan, I was driving to one of the breweries to pick up some supplies. And it's the first time I heard it. And I was going down on Maui, windows down, music blaring. And I heard this "I'm Good" with David Guetta. So if you're on the night shift, you need a little boost. Just picture me in a minivan cruising down the highway with that song cranked. I thought it was a good one. Of course, folks, check us out on YouTube. If you can give me a like or a share, I don't know how to do that, but if you can do it and figure it out, great. We're on social media. We're on X. We're on Instagram, Facebook. Check us out there. The team at Fox and Forth are doing a great job getting some variety in our social media game. So we appreciate that. Okay, that's it for housekeeping. Now let's get into the first segment here. Which is positive moments of the week. Each and every week we do our positive moments, and I have a long list of them here for the middle part of May. Okay. I had an opportunity to partner with Blind Man Brewery in Lacombe, Alberta. A huge, fantastic lineup of beer there. But we had a chance. Uncle Glenn came out with me, and we were able to create a Kolsch style beer. Okay, it now has a name. Thank you for the few of you that responded with something, but it's now called Crop Checkin' Kolsch. It's a crop checkin' beer. Okay, one of my favorite beers to have throughout the year is that July crop checkin' beer. Okay, so Crop Checkin' Kolsch, collaboration with Blind Man Brewery, What the Futures. You won't be able to buy this in a can anywhere. It's not mass produced, but there's a couple kegs. One is going to be a Revolution, and the money raised for that goes to charity. It's great. The second one, I get to do something with that, and we're going to do, the idea is like a hillbilly crop tour. Okay. So maybe find a couple of old limos or an old bus or something like that. Do a couple of stops, maybe go to someone's shop, have a bit of a barbecue there. If you're a company listening to this and you think, hey, that's a cool idea, send me an email, ryan@whatthefuturespodcast.ca, to participate in the Hillbilly Crop Tour. If you are a farmer and you're like, yeah, I'll put my hand up to host in my shop or in my yard, send me a text or send me an email as well. I think I have to keep it to Alberta for this time, just based on with the liquor laws and stuff. But anyways, if you're interested in the Hillbilly Crop Tour, let me know. And this, Megan, being a part of this has been great. So it's one of my positive moments for this week. Number 2, $9 wheat. $9 wheat in Central Saskatchewan. $9 spring wheat. Holy smokes. Let's pay the bill, secure the bag. $9 wheat hits positive moments for the week. Durlow Farms. I went and did a canola seed delivery here this morning, which that has to be my first canola seed delivery in like over a decade. But we participated in an event last December with Jason Gregor and the charities he supports. The Christmas Bureau was the one that we were a part of there. So we gave a little package. It got bid on by many farms, but Durlow Farms was the winner. And today I went over to Pioneer Seeds. Tower Farms is my agency. Jacob and Becky, they helped load up the truck. You can check it out on social media. And I was able to deliver that. And so that's a positive moment based on the obviously the charity portion of this, but also as I was driving across the country, I had to go an hour north and an hour east. Just the activity out there, drills everywhere, tender trucks, floaters, like heavy action. It was awesome. It was a good feeling to be out there and see all that activity going on. And then my last one, just bringing it back to the family. So we have lots of outside projects going on this spring. We've got trees that we've planted. We've got grass that we've had to seed. And of course, my wife's got flowers and all that stuff in the garden as well. Well, having kids, Finn's now 16 months old. He can run. He's cruising out there. He loves water. But watering trees, flowers, anything like that, it's just so much more enjoyable now. Every night after dinner, after supper, we get the pails filled up and the kids just go to town and water the heck out of everything. And it's just a lot of fun. It's just a lot of fun. So those are my positive moments of the week here. Now, I haven't done a lot talking about prices. So you know what? We're going to move that to a little bit later after I speak with David. So how about we do this? Let's do hot topic of the week. And then we've got David coming in. And then after that, we'll do the mailbag. We'll announce our UPL winner. And then I'll do prices. And then we'll do eating your veggies. So let's do it like that. Okay. Hopefully you're okay with that this week. All right. So my hot topic of the week. I could talk about the rail strike, but I don't really want to. I could talk about whatever other headlines out there, but I don't think they're going to have much of an impact on helping you make marketing decisions or business decisions. Okay. So my hot topic continues to be, this wheat market and these markets in general, the old weather market, right? Some call it the silly season. Strange things happen in the spring at times. We take the stairs up in these markets and then we take the elevator down. You're climbing. Things are good. You take a step back, then you climb, take a step back. But then all of a sudden, something just comes out of nowhere, blindsides you, and you can't pick up the phone fast enough to make a sale. You're trying to phone, the market's cratering, and you're like, oh, why am I phoning now? Why didn't I do something? It's just the way it goes time and time again. We've got seasonal charts that look and support this type of activity in our markets. We've had this whole short covering event. We talked all winter long about, the shorts adding to their position, making it harder, more negative. Well, that's all changed here. And then, of course, my technical friends out there, the smart ones, not me. I'm not smart enough for that. They tell me that the charts are healthy, look good, they're healthy. I'm sure they're using bigger words than that, but hey, I'll take it. So, Minneapolis wheat has climbed $1-ish. Kansas wheat has climbed, I think someone said $1.40, $1.50 there. Chicago's got to be similar. We're on a heck of a run here in these markets, an exciting run, something that, can help you establish some strong margins in 2014 and beyond, and 2015 as well. And I'm just going to pull up some charts here. It looks like my prep for this week fell a little behind here in some of these show notes. But December corn traded $4.96. Yeah, we're up from, in February we were down at $4.50, right? So we've had a pretty healthy rally there. Oats as well. Oat prices starting to climb a little bit here for old crop across the prairies. A bit of a rougher day here today, but oats trading right around $4. Back earlier in April, we were at $3.30. So a nice little run up in oats as well. Soybeans and canola, not as exciting in those markets right now. Nov beans trading as high as $12.18 today. We have rallied from $11.25. So, hey, there's 75 cents there as well. And of course, canola has done some decent things. November trading at $6.80, has been flirting with that 200-day moving average on both sides. And hey, we did rally from 600. So, that's pretty significant there as well. Just not as exciting, I'd say, the last couple of weeks here compared to wheat. Now, my opinion for wheat, this is a short covering rally that has had support from French wheat, sponsored by the poor French wheat crop. I think it was like mid 60s, good to excellent compared to mid 90s last year. Russian wheat, Savicon, they've lowered their crop expectations twice now. I think they're in that 84 and change million metric tons. I believe it was just in the low 90s, 2 reports ago. There's been drought, there's been frost events. The Russian wheat crop potential reduction has sponsored this rally. Slow corn planting in the US is part of this as well, right? That's going to get much more important over the next couple of weeks. Actually, corn is the crop I'm most bullish on right now. Rumors that India may have to import wheat for the first time since 2008. Hey, that's interesting. And probably the most important one here is major exporters like Russia are sitting at the lowest wheat supplies in 17 years. As a group, major wheat exporters, the lowest supplies in 17 years. Potentially the lowest supplies in 17 years. So those last two, India coming to buy wheat would be big because India, they just produce and consume. They don't import, they don't export. They just produce it and consume it. They have to actually buy something. That'd be pretty big. And of course, these major wheat exporters, hey, any more hiccups here, stocks get even tighter, right? Now, it can all change. It can all change quickly. And that's where that elevator kind of falls apart at times. It can all change very quickly. All right, folks, I've got David Lee with Marketplace Commodities joining me here once again on the What the Futures podcast. David, how's your spring going?
Thanks for asking, Ryan. It's going really well so far. Quite enjoying the wet and rainy weather out here in Alberta.
I bet. I keep seeing those systems on the radar and roll through, and I keep thinking that if you're farming in southern Alberta this year, you're feeling just a little bit better right now.
Yeah, Ryan, you're absolutely right. The 4 to 4.5 inches last week really, I think, turned some frowns upside down, and now it's made it a different set of problems for some guys, and for some guys they're laughing. So
yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's the way it goes, right? It's not perfect everywhere. And we'll talk about that in a minute. But so like, how is seeding progressing in your area? Like when you chat with people, buyers, how are things going out there?
It's actually pretty good. I would say that we're probably 70 to 80% in right now.
Okay.
The interesting thing about it is I would say that to make up that 70 to 80%, you've got a pool of guys that are 100%.
Yep.
And you've got another pool of guys that are 0%.
Okay. Okay. Some extremes. Yeah.
Not a whole lot in the middle. So they're either in or they're not in this area. Because when those storms came through, it's shut things down pretty good. And even today, they're not really able to get going quite yet again here. Hopefully they can get a little going again this week here. But we're not really too far behind at this point. But it's getting to that point. So
we're recording on May 15th. And I was listening to the radio as I was cruising around here this morning, and they were calling the provincial average as 50%.
50%. Okay.
So May 15th, the province at 50%. I think that's a pretty safe number. The interesting thing is that the folks farming up in the Peace region, it's been just obviously super dry there. You can see the wildfire activities, around Fort McMurray, but also around Grand Prairie. So they've been cruising along. They're actually wrapping up. Like I see on my social media every day, like a farm wrapping up, planting up there. So that's really interesting. It's usually not quite like that. So
it's very unusual to talk to guys up in those areas and hear them as far ahead as us. Usually we're talking to them and a month later, and we're all finished down here and asking how things are going up there, but not this year. Even as even with Tasco in those areas, some of those areas have guys as far ahead as we are this year. So it seems to be going in at a fairly even clip, I guess you'd say.
Yeah. And it's warmed up a little bit. Obviously the moisture helps to germinate things, keep it nice and even, kind of get everything going. So are there any concerns out there for you as of, the middle of the month here, or is it pretty?
Yeah, there still are concerns. Like, even though we've had some nice moisture here, a fellow that I talked to was doing some excavating the other day. And, the soil moisture went about 10 inches deep. And then past that, it was still kind of a dry powder.
Okay.
So in my mind, and I have to admit, I'm not the most knowledgeable when it comes to these things, but it doesn't leave a lot of room for root development in that. So I think the roots might be a little shallow this year. I guess it depends if it keeps raining. Eventually that moisture will penetrate deeper.
Yeah.
But at this point here, there's a little bit of concern that, at this point, there's no concern that we're going to have a crop. We're going to have a crop this year. There's no doubt about that. But there is some concern when those roots don't go deep. We find that in those years can tend to either go light bushel weight or a little bit lower yield than you're expecting. It can look really nice on the top.
Yeah.
But without those deep roots and some of that, like in other years where we've had dry soil moisture on the top, but deep soil moisture down below, the roots have really, really reached down, and you get that feel. Even if the plant didn't look as great as it might have, it's still able to do it. When it gets those shallower root systems, like in a 10-inch span sort of thing, so there's a little bit of concern that we might run into like a lighter bushel weight, even with with the decent moisture that we've had. So I'd say that's that's right here in the Lethbridge area, in southern Alberta. So I don't know other areas quite as well, but that's just in one guy I was talking to there.
Yep. No, fair enough. And I think the one pattern that everyone is crossing their fingers for is just to see those rain clouds roll through consistently this summer, because we did deplete a lot of moisture last year, and we got it started here, and we got to keep it going. So for sure.
Yeah.
Let's turn our attention now to some, maybe old crop values here. Like we've seen a heck of a rally in the wheat markets, to name one. Like wheat's climbed like $1 a bushel. What are you seeing for cash prices? Has barley responded at all? Are you getting bullish on anything these days?
Well, we've definitely seen wheat come up, with some dryness in Russia that's affected the futures markets here. We've seen feed wheat move from, probably in Lethbridge here around $295 a ton up to about $340 a ton. Okay. Yeah. With the corn futures where they're at today and the current basis levels being offered at around, maybe 90 cents to $1, that's landing into feedlots probably around $310 to $320 a ton. Okay. And then you've got barley sitting at $285, $290 a ton. Bids in that range. So you've certainly got a lot of headroom for barley. Yeah. But, I don't know. Even just this week, selling it is very difficult. It's very difficult to find a bid on barley. One of the larger feedlots two of the larger feedlots that I deal with, they're both kind of saying the same thing on it. One says, I really pulled out all the strings to try and put a sale on with him too. And he just said, sorry, David, we've just got enough. We bought a lot out of Montana this year. He says, we just, we're content to just hold. Very much the same thing that the other guy said, who's kind of a conglomerate of different feedlots. He just kind of says, well, we're going to hold at these prices, and if we buy, we buy, and if we don't, we don't. And his bids are in and around that 280 to 285 a ton. get out into new crop and you might get up to that 285 to 290 a ton.
Okay.
So your guess is as good as mine. My intuition would have said that barley should probably be 305 to 310 today.
Mm-hmm.
But intuition doesn't matter when it comes to price.
Yeah.
It takes someone to buy it.
So,
and the only way they pay more is if they need it.
And so the buyers today have comfortable supply. They're not worried.
There's no panic.
No panic. Okay.
And with the rain that we've had, that certainly hasn't added to any bullishness on barley.
I was going to ask that. Does the rain help them out or have them feel more confident?
Like I would have thought, like when the rain came, we booked in, maybe some extra loads, hoping to sell some spot barley at maybe a bit of a premium, see if we could maybe do something like that, have some extra on the way. Mm-hmm. And in the end, we ended up having to fire sale it off to try and get rid of it. So, it kind of backfired on us. And, oftentimes during this year, it's those spot loads that can make quite a bit of difference for us in margin. Mm-hmm. And it just hasn't panned out every time we've thought it would run. I'm not saying it certainly won't. It certainly could run. We're not seeing a lot of farmers selling either, but we just haven't seen it yet.
Well, we also had a Stats Can report not long ago, like stocks. There's no concern about barley stocks, right? Like there's going to be carryover, a significant carryover.
Yeah.
So someone has to carry this over as well. So
that's right. Yeah, and when you do have the futures, your new crop trading at a bit of a premium.
Yeah.
There's not really a lot of pressure on the farmer unless he has to have it out either. So I can understand their standpoint. And that's probably why, to be honest, I've kind of moved a little bit out of the barley space right now. I've been trading some different commodities, rye and feed wheat. Feed wheat's been a big one.
Okay.
A little bit of oats, just kind of getting out of that space, because when you've got no buyers and no excited sellers, it's one of those markets for us that you really dread.
Mm-hmm.
So
fair enough. Now, my next question was, are there any crops where demand is picking up? And you mentioned rye. I know with the hockey playoffs, my Oilers are still in it, but it's very stressful. And my rye consumption has climbed a little bit in my household the last number of weeks here. But
I'm sure it has, yes.
Anything standing out in that rye market right now? Anything exciting, or what's going on there?
Well, yeah, I have had a little bit of success on that. If you look at some of the bids coming out of like a Belle Plaine or somewhere like that, they're in kind of that 250 range.
Okay.
I did have a few South Korean buyers step in, and I think I was able to do some at around a 350 delivered Lethbridge per ton. Mm-hmm. I have some interest in some new crop, and not large volume, but in like new crop, maybe August, September, non-hybrid rye for one of the distilleries that we work with. Mm-hmm. So maybe another, I booked a fair amount, but I'm probably still looking for another 5 loads of that.
Okay.
Kind of in and around those same values, maybe that 350 to 360 delivered Lethbridge equivalent. I'd probably need to pick it up FOB or have it delivered into a storage facility, because when these guys call for it, they want it all within like a day, and we have to really organize it.
Sure.
So that's definitely a good one. And trying to find the rye is difficult too. With the last few dry years, a lot of guys didn't seed fall rye. So I think that one could stay strong for a little while. I think that one could stay strong here. Now that one's probably already seeded. So, that doesn't really help anyone at this point. If I guess most guys probably have their intentions and their seeding already going. They know what they're doing. But
Mm-hmm.
I think that looks like a good one. I think this wheat market seems to be a leader, and leaders oftentimes stay a leader.
Okay.
So I do kind of think that that this wheat market, I think that it probably still has some legs under it, if I were to guess.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly until new crop, which in our area, it does sometimes start to come out of Montana, some of the winter wheat, maybe mid-July.
Right.
So,
yep.
When it comes to the seasonality of the feed grain market, which is mostly my market, the way that it works, if you average your prices out over the last, say, 10 years, your May long weekend, you really want to be out of most of your positions.
Okay.
That's kind of the peak in the market, and then it typically declines. Now, if you really get into some dryness, your July is kind of one of those swing months. And sure. Last year, at this time last year, we were at $410 a ton on barley in Lethbridge.
Yeah.
It hit a high on July 17th of about 440.
Okay.
And today we're now trading at around 285 to 290 to give you
brutal.
an idea of what we've seen this year. So,
yeah.
So so last year it didn't hit till about July. This year, if I had to guess, it almost feels like it's maybe hit a week early. The demand last week really dried up on us, and these things are never a sure thing, but that's kind of the seasonal pattern on barley, and then it generally declines into harvest. Kind of put a harvest low in September, October, and then you generally climb out from there. So.
Sure. Yeah. So are you thinking that between now, May 15th and July 15th, that for the market to climb between now and then, you'd have to see some significant dry weather events or something like that? Is that kind of what you're...
I think it would have to be a weather event to spur the feedlots from getting off their, off the sidelines here.
Yeah.
When they have decent coverage, we're going to need some sort of an outside event. Like I see some of these offers, even out of Australia. I don't think the export market is super hot. I do think that there is some export trade going on, but I don't think it's so hot that it's going to drive the market.
Right.
Because I don't see the Australian offers getting hit by China. So I do think it would have to be an outside event, which, looking at things and the weather guys that I've listened to, they're talking about this El Nino turning into a bit of a La Nina this year. A little more wet weather coming in, colder winters for the next 2 to 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
So, and now kind of seeing the rain that we're seeing, I'm seeing evidence of that occurring. So I would say that it lends a little more strength to maybe a bit more rains, like you say, the carry out.
Mm-hmm.
In 2012, I traded the highest price on barley I had ever traded, which was $300, about where we are at today.
Yeah.
In 2012.
Yeah.
And by September that year, it had dipped off to about $210 a ton.
Mm-hmm.
So it dropped very quickly. And we did not surpass that peak again until 2020.
Yeah.
In fact, we really didn't go much over $220 a ton for the next 8 years.
Yep.
So that's why I would say that if I was sitting on grain, facing moisture, facing the seasonal trend, which turns over, facing a lack of demand, you do have corn and wheat trading higher, but I would, I don't know if I would be really trying to, maybe I would pick a decent new crop sale if it's there right now.
Yeah.
You could still find one that's pretty decent and there's a little bit of a premium. But I don't know if I'd put all my eggs in that basket. If it goes down, it can go down and it can stay down. So it's great that you mentioned 2012, because I've been on this, and not just myself, others as well, but I've been on this little tangent about
markets between 2010 and 2020, 11 and 21, 12 and 22, so on and so forth. So we're here in 2024. And in 2014, the wheat market rallies from like $6 to 8.25 or 8.50. I think 8.50.
Okay.
And then by harvest time, it was in the fives.
Oh,
Might
right.
have been 5.5 actually. And so I sit here and I've been a big supporter and trying to advertise how people can contract comfortably with using different strategies and stuff like that, because like with this rally that we're experiencing now, it's just a unbelievable selling opportunity that you can use and so you can lock in some grain for 2025 as well, the fall of 25, some wheat and canola as well if you want. It's really interesting because I can't guarantee that 2024 and 2014 are going to line up to be the same, but by golly gee, David, it may be pretty darn close the way things are going. And it just doesn't stick around forever either. And I look around and I think, well, in 2014, if it went from 8 to 5 or 8.50 to 5.50, I could see something like that happening this year because carryout is expected to climb. We've got carryover this year. We got, maybe fingers crossed, a good growing season in front of us. I think farmers have to be very disciplined in their plan and executing their plan and making sure they're not holding a whole bunch of grain for that winter doldrums of crop marketing. And the other thing you said is, you traded 300 in 2012. It took till 2020 to get there. I've been, talking to farmers saying, you're going to market your crops, in my opinion, you're going to market your crops very similar to the years of 2015, 16, 17, 18. It wasn't fun. It was not fun marketing crops. I was doing it. I was working with lots of farmers at the time. It was great for me, right? Like I was having lots of fun, but it just wasn't fun because prices weren't doing a whole bunch of anything. So, so it's just, we'll see. But I agree with you.
Markets can tend to go sideways. I think I think markets tend to go sideways about 70% of the time, and they trend about up probably 20% of the time and down about 10.
Yeah.
They drop pretty quickly.
Fast.
But, the other thing that I might just touch on too is there's oftentimes opportunities in a bear market like we've been in, because if you just think about the dynamics, like me, maybe I see it a little more because I'm buying and selling, but in a rising market, grain is easy to sell, and it's somewhat easy to buy as well.
Okay.
Generally speaking, you can get an offer from someone, and then someone's very interested in it. Yeah. When it turns around and it starts to come down like it has, you got your buyers that are all on the sidelines.
Yeah.
And you got sellers that aren't happy about the price. And what can happen there is guys can get a little short grain, and the seller really can dictate a significant price to what you would think. So sometimes the way I would describe it is, let's say you have a kind of like what we've seen, like $100 price decrease. Well, there are periods in there where if you do find someone that needs the grain, these counter trend rallies can sometimes rally up a significant percent of that decline, but on thin volume, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So you may see a rally like that where all of a sudden it's trading at a high price, but there isn't much that traded there. It was just a few guys that needed it wasn't a very deep bid. It just needed some coverage, but they had to pay up for it.
Okay.
And you will see those. Whereas in an uptrend, you don't often see that. It's more of a consistent trend. and then it'll have a, maybe a little bit of a pullback here and there. But in the downtrends, you can see quite a counter trend rally from time to time.
So I guess the question I'd have for that is, how, if it's not a lot of volume, is there like one tip you could give to farmers to be aware of that? Is there something they can do to be hyper aware of those scenarios, or what would you say to that?
I guess sort of. What I would probably recommend, one thing that I would recommend is definitely keep in touch with your feedlots. Make good friends with them. Make good friends with the people that you trade with.
Yep.
Because if you think about it, from my perspective, if I see an opportunity, as a trader, we have to fill it as fast as possible. Because these things are very quick. They'll be gone in sometimes 15 minutes.
Sure.
And so I've got probably a list of, a few guys on my list that will get the call immediately, because I know they're not going to take 2 hours to decide.
Yep.
They hear the price and they, when we have a decent enough relationship that they believe that I'm, and I'm hoping that it is a good price.
Yeah.
And they'll pull the trigger fairly quickly. Otherwise, I'll miss the trade too. And for me, I hate to say it, but really from my position, it's all about volume for us.
Oh yeah.
Volume and a little bit of a margin. So
yeah. 100%. Okay. So should we take down like a list of your hobbies or your favorite foods or something to get on that list? Or
well, not necessarily that, but just I would say just it's always a good idea to have a good relation. Most guys probably know who they have a good relationship with, and but try and get on their list where they have because those trades can make a big difference to your bottom line at the end of the year. A few of those.
Yeah, 100%, and you can see those big swings as well. Or I remember there's, you and I have worked together for a long time. There's been some interesting scenarios that have developed, if it's a protein or if it's a discount schedule, a premium schedule. Like there's been lots of interesting things that have happened in the past.
You never know where it's going to come from, but when it happens, it's like, oh, wow.
Yeah. And actually on the, I do it's called Eating Your Veggies section, where it's things to focus on. And a couple of weeks ago, I mentioned, talk to your grain buyers, build up that communication with them. Just let them know you're there. And even had a buyer reach out and say, hey, how can I be a better grain buyer? And we covered some of that last week too. So, okay. I got one last one for you. I know we kept you a little longer this week, but
no
this is I know the answer already. It's a layup, but are you guys, Marketplace Commodities, licensed and bonded by the Canadian Grain Commission?
Oh, that's a great question. Yeah, of course we are licensed and bonded.
Excellent.
And I suppose for those that don't really know what that means, is that for all of the grain that we have purchased on the books, we have to post a bond on that. Mm-hmm. And we're audited essentially monthly on that bond to make sure that it's in line with what we do have purchased. But not only that, the licensing portion, to carry the license on that, we have to meet quite strict criteria. If things change, I hate to say it, but from our end, it is actually a real pain. But
sure, yeah.
It's one of those unsaid things. Well, it's being more and more said, I think, but it's one of those things that, like, if I were a farmer, I would look at it this way. When someone is licensed and bonded, well, let's just say you have two bids and you have one that's a nickel higher, and the nickel higher isn't licensed and bonded, although that's not always the case. I think that we're very competitive even with companies but let's just say they have a nickel higher, and the licensed and bonded company is a nickel lower. The way that I would look at it is, you're actually taking an option on your payment for a nickel for your entire payment. So I think when you think of it in those terms, a person would realize that the risk is far outweighs the reward in that sense.
Yeah. For that nickel. Well, when my, my guy I used to consult for, his name's Ken. I got a couple Kens here, but he's waiting for payment from a company and it's going to be over 3 months delayed, if he gets it. I got another guy. His name's also Ken. He's getting paid in 7% increments right now. And he's also delayed by many months. And in that one situation, he's out, like the money he has outstanding is about 25% of his total revenue on his farm. Like it's huge, right? But nobody knew. But anyways, that's a great point. And I knew the answer, but we won't get into the nitty gritty here. But just appreciate.
It's very easy to look up
insight.
if you just go to the Canadian Grain Commission website.
Yep.
You can look up every company on there. Just look up CGC licensed and bonded companies. It'll come right up. Check out your buyers. In fact, if it were me personally selling grain, I would just filter all the ones that aren't licensed and bonded and then go out and get bids from the ones that are. That would just be my, how I would do. I've talked to too many guys that call me after a bad, they often call us after having a bad deal, something where they haven't gotten paid. And I don't like those conversations, even though we are licensed and bonded, because it always seems to make a guy back on his heels after that. Always a bit nervous to do. Yeah. Even though you're reputable, you're licensed and bonded. We've never been, our payment terms are with, we pay within 7 business days. And we've always done that. Yep. Done that for, over a decade, 15 years now, 16 years, whatever it is.
Yep.
So I just never like those conversations. I can always tell a guy is gun shy from then on. It's just not a good thing for our industry when these companies, make guys uncertain in their grain marketing.
We already had a large decline in commodity prices, so there's that part of confidence, but there's also this, everyone gets rattled about this stuff, and they should. It's real stuff with a real impact. But that's why I wanted to bring it up with you, and I have some other guests joining me over the next couple of weeks to just say, like, hey, this is an isolated situation. Well, unfortunately, it's not isolated. There's a few companies involved here in different ways, but it's going to be a conversation point. I guarantee.
And there's one other thing I'd suggest, even if a person is, hell bent on dealing with someone on a deal, I'll have companies or some farms sometimes ask for our credit references, and I'll be happy to send them our credit references as well. And I think that would, if perhaps you were going to deal with someone like that, then if they're going to be picking your grain up, why not ask for some credit references and make a few phone calls on it? Yeah,
that's a good tip for sure.
So I mean, there's also that option as well, because I really do, just whatever the case is, I get tired of hearing guys getting burnt on different deals. It's not that often to be, but when it does happen, it's nasty. So significant. And companies that find themselves in that situation, they never seem to just kind of cut it off and back off. It seems like they have to go all the way through, right to the end.
Yeah. Keep digging. So. That's great. I appreciate the extra time this week. We had a lot to cover there.
My pleasure, Ryan.
So take care, man. We'll talk real soon again.
All the best to you. Yep.
Thanks. Always great to have David join the show. Just a wealth of information for this week's episode. All right, we got just a couple more things to get to here. Let's go to the mailbag now. Of course, sponsored by Pioneer Seeds. This month, we're giving away an Igloo 3-gallon bucket cooler, along with a breakaway speaker. All you have to do is basically ask a question, business related, crop marketing related. Everything's available. So ask away. So I did get one question this week. Well, I got two, but Alden came in and said, "What do I have to do to enter the draw for the lunchbox?" And I wasn't sure if he was talking about the lunchbox crew, but I've got that lunchbox. I've got that lunchbox behind me there, and then we're of course giving away this great cooler from Pioneer Seeds as well. So, anyways, Alden, if it's about the Pioneer Seeds one, just keep firing away with those questions, man, and that's what you got to do. Now, all right. So I did get a question. I got an anonymous question, and we're going to respect the anonymous questions as well. Yeah, I don't have to give out names. I can do first names when we draw prizes, but I appreciate all questions. Anonymous is totally fine here as well. There's no bad questions. It's a safe place with me at the helm here. You guys know me. I'm no genius, so it's all good. Anyways, only one question. Everyone's planting crops. So this one was last week. You talked about how we could contract with a zero buyout, which actually reminds me, Viterra and Cargill did not call me or email me. So I guess I was spot on, or they didn't listen to the episode. Probably that last one. Anyways, what is your favorite contract to use and why? Can you give us an example? All right, great question. I'm going to give two answers. One's super easy. One's slightly more complicated. Now, you might call me a bit of a homer for this one, but averaging contracts, most of the time I do not like an averaging contract. I'm a little bit full of myself when it comes to crop marketing at times. And I believe that I can beat average, which is actually not that easy to do. That's a story for another episode, though. That could be its own separate special episode on the side. But where I do like short-term averaging contracts is between, while using seasonal charts and this time of year. So I'm recording the evening of May 15th. I could phone up a Viterra or Cargill, and maybe there's others out there with averaging contracts. But I could say, hey, I want to do 100 tons of canola or wheat. I want to use May 15th to customize it. You could say, I want to do May 15th to June 15th. I want to do May 15th to July 15th. I want to do May 15th to August 15th, August 1st, September 2nd, whatever you want to do. You can customize it for your contract. But basically, it's going to sell a little bit every day. And you're going to say, well, Ryan, where's the fun in that? Well, the fun in that, somewhere in your contract, the high of the year could likely be established. Okay. But you're taking an average of what traditionally is, when you go back to seasonals, a good time to be pricing grain. Now, you can also say on the 20th day or the 10th day that, hey, I believe this is the peak of the market. Price me out. Sell the rest of my days at today's level. And they'll do that for you. And again, you're not going to get that price. You're going to have an average of before that. But you end up getting a sweet little contract. It's not very stressful. It participates in a rally. It also participates in the dips, but not as severe. And you have some control and some flexibility around it. So it's just an easy one. Now, it's not my favorite. It's just something of note here. It's fun to do at this time of year. My favorite, though, is taking, selling wheat, selling canola, and then buying and adding a call option to the contract. Now, it's important that I'm not telling you to go out there and do this. This is an example, and this is something I've done in the past. But my absolute favorite is, let's say my $9 wheat target hit this week. Let's use that as an example. So I take my $9 wheat target, futures, what do we have? December of 24. That's Chicago. I think we're like a 750. December, 747. So essentially my $9 contract represents that 750 futures level. So I'd sit here and say, well, I'm not too worried if the market goes to $8 futures. That doesn't bother me at all. But if it goes above that, that's where I may have a bit of a problem, either against a buyout, or I may have just a bit of seller's remorse or something like that. That's where I have a problem. So I would go out there and I would buy a call option using that $8 strike. So I've sold it at $7.50. I've got my $9 wheat. I sold it at $7.50 plus basis on there of $1.50, I guess. I'm willing to take a little bit of risk in this example, 50 cents. And I'm going to go and buy the $8 call. And that's going to cost me like 35 cents to do that. Whereas the 750 call is 55 cents. So again, depending on how bullish you are, if you're very bullish, you might just say, I'll buy the 750 call. Well, you're probably not making the sale at all. But buying that $8 call, that means that if futures go above $8, your call option is going to increase in value. And you can either use that money to top up your $9 sale in this example, or you can use that money against the buyout if you don't produce it. I have done this contract, I don't even know how many times. Over the last 15 years, 14 years, I don't know, quite like a lot. And what typically happens, or what has happened in the past, is it gave me the confidence to sell the $9 wheat in this example. I knew that I had the call option there, so that if the market rallied, I had upside participation. But what ended up happening time and time again is that the market fell, and wheat later on that fall, that winter, into the next year was significantly lower. So it gave me the confidence to sell more $9 wheat, knowing I had some protection, extending sales, and then avoiding selling more wheat at $8 and $7 and whatever happens. So it's my favorite contract because I've used it and it's been successful. And I'm not saying it's perfect. It's not perfect. None of them are. But I really like it. If you want to go through those examples and say, Ryan, draw that up for me. Maybe we can get your grain buyer on the phone as well, and they'll draw it up. You can phone Viterra and say, I want to do that. Or you can phone Cargill and say, I want to do that. And they'll get that drawn up for you. Okay. So those are my favorite, two of my favorites right now. Really like that buying that call though. Again, it's all handled at Viterra or wherever, right? It's all there. The paper, they do it. Yeah. Okay. Keep the questions coming. Ryan at whatthefuturespodcast.ca. I know you're busy, folks, but I also appreciate you tuning in while you're going back and forth in the field. Yeah. All right. You know what? Let's get to our UPL winner for this week. Let's pick our winner. Come on down. Tom Manners from Lloydminster. You have won yourself 40 acres of Batalium. Again, this is the fancy stuff that you spray. Congratulations, Tom. Thanks for listening to the show. Thanks for texting in your answers. And hey, there we go. Another 40 acres, a little bit to the west of our last winner, but actually not that far. So 40 acres of Batalium heading over to Tom. I'll get UPL in contact with you. So appreciate that. But here's the best part. It keeps on, folks. We're doing it for another week. And here it is from UPL. Batalium is an excellent resistance management tool because it has 4 active ingredients from 3 modes of action. The question for this week: how many active ingredients does Batalium contain? I'm just looking for a number here, folks. Just a number. Send in your answer via text to 1-855-606-1889 or email your answer to Ryan at whatthefuturespodcast.ca. I'll be picking a winner next Wednesday. Same thing. And that is it. Easy as that. Lastly, I'm going to just admit here that I am not perfect. So please always read the label. Whatever chemical you're applying, read the label for rates and weeds controlled. Do not listen to the What the Futures podcast. Apparently, last week I may have fumbled a word or two there. So I'm just going to say, read the labels, folks. Read the labels. Don't take your advice from a crop marketing podcast. Okay. Prices. Let's get to some prices here real quick. Man, I'm just looking at the list. There's nothing here that's going to jump off and surprise you. You know, I think we talked about $9 wheat enough today for spring wheat for new crop. But don't forget the 2025 sale, the fall of 2025. Okay. It's so important to me that you look and acknowledge that there's pricing opportunities out there and that you kind of set yourself up for success next year, because the price you have for December of 24 and the price you have for December of 25, almost the same on spring wheat. Okay. I think the CPS guys are laughing. Again, I think I said cartwheels in the fields last week. They've got December now at 712 of 24. They're getting a carry. They're getting more money for next year at 729. And then canola is not as exciting, but still, folks, it's there. It's on the radar. We're we're at that 650 level now. Honestly, I probably got to do something for our farm here, especially if we're going to buy some cheap urea here in the next little bit. Don't forget about that. Oats are climbing. $5 is being quoted now. I know Keith had a question a couple months ago about an old crop oat rally. Keith, I don't know if you held on from Hoey, Saskatchewan. Not sure if you held on, man, but they're back at $5. Lots of brokers mentioning $5. And I've even got $5.20 delivered into southern Alberta. And that one's been climbing slowly every week. I think a little bit of volume, a conversation. I think there's negotiation that can happen here and get those oats sold off here. I think you can get a little bit more than what's being quoted out there. What else do we have? I know canola, $15 canola. That's been out there quite a bit. Folks, I know you know all this stuff already, but again, yellow peas at $12 in Alberta. I know a lot of 1150s out there, but get that 12. Work them over for that. Greens, lots of 1450s quoted, but 15's got to be there. Maples, that $20 level, and then flax at 17. So we'll leave it at that for now, and we'll just get wrapped up here with eating your veggies section. Now, I did say at the start of the episode, my first one here was contract maintenance, and it's so important to take time and record what you've all done here with your crop marketing over the last number of days. You've been busy, and I get it. But maintenance is key right now, because when the sky falls, this is eating your veggies, the right thing to do. Number one, when the sky falls tomorrow, next week, next month, whenever the market decides, whoops, we went too high, we got to retreat and drop very fast. You're going to want to know your percent sold, because you're going to be picking up the phone, making a sale. And it sucks. That day, it's the worst day. You know, the market's been going up, and then a headline comes out, and then the market just sinks, and it's so fast and it's so ugly. And you're sitting there saying, geez, what do I do? Do I sell this drop? Of course you do. You sell the drop, but it's a brutal day. But you need to be ready to execute sales. So do your contract maintenance. You got time. Make your corner, set the line, or whatever you got to do on the GPS, and reach out to your buyers. Figure out what you got out there for contracts. Now, the second one, what did I write here? Call your local grain company. Oh, yeah. Okay. So we talked about strategies the last couple episodes. But for eating your veggies, number 2, don't just listen. Call your local grain company and say, I want to try something new this year. I've never done this before. My worry is XYZ. I'm worried about a buyout. I'm worried about selling and prices climbing. Whatever it is, whatever your fear is, tell them that and say, here's my worries. Bring me back a solution. Help me make sales at a time of year when I should be making sales. Okay, that's number 2. Number 3, I didn't have anything written down. I'm just going to say check out ryandenny.ca. I'll just throw another plug in there. All right, folks, we've done it. We've made it. What are we at here? Geez, we're north of an hour again this week. All right, well, keeping you entertained, hopefully, on the tractor during seeding or the sprayer, whatever you're doing. But thanks so much for tuning in. I had a heck of a great day today. I was on the road delivering some canola seed. I'll get into that next week. But I got to see tender trucks, floaters, drills, everyone working hard out there. It's fantastic. It's such a good feeling. Stay safe. Have a great weekend. Have a great run here. And I'm out. Go Oilers.